I've got a big slab of 8/4 cottonwood that I milled with my dad last summer on his homemade sawmill. I'm gonna turn it into a live edge desk, but with a twist. So my board is roughly 16 inches down here, and it's got a nasty split. I didn't get it banded up and I left it out in the sun, and this is what happens when you leave wood out in the sun to cure and dry all the way. My board is now cut to length. I've got it at 81 inches. That way I can fit the supports on the sides underneath. We're going to do some shelving on each side and make it like a proper desk, and fit that big chair that Jamie just upholstered up underneath it. Okay, so I have live edge all along both sides of the board, and I am not going to trim either one of those up. So what I'm going to do is cut this down the middle, and the outside is going to become the inside. And so my outside will be square, so I'll have a square desk, but the inside is going to have that edge that's live still. Okay, so now I've got two boards with mostly live edges on them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run them through the thickness planer. That way I make sure I've got nice, even, mostly straight boards, and then we'll go from there. I don't know if I have a machine that can make more sawdust and wood chips faster. Now that I've got the tops and bottoms of the boards cleaned up, I don't want all these little hairs and fibers from the bark on here. So I'm just going to take a wire brush until all of the dirt and debris and bug droppings and everything is gone out of this edge of the wood. Okay, so I'm getting ready to put my boards together. I've got the flat sides facing opposite, and the live edge is in the center. So I've got this piece of leftover vinyl from another project that I had, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these together, join them up as square as I can, and then I will seal up that vinyl and pour the resin in there. Alright, to help my boards line up and also form a dam right here on the end, I'm going to put this board right here. This is just a scrap piece of 2x4 that I've got the ends cut off from. I'm going to do the same thing to the other end, and then I'll get my vinyl backer on here and sealed up. These are just thin 1/8 inch sheets. I've drilled holes in them so I don't crack the vinyl, and I'm just going to run these screws down in. I'm hoping, because my river is contained here, that I can get away with just putting these on here, sealing them up with some hot glue, and then hopefully the screws and everything will hold without having to build an entire form around it. Okay, hot glue gun's heated up. I'm just going to run a bead all along the edge of this plastic. I'm hoping that if there's any gaps or anything in between the wood and the vinyl sheet here, that it will fill those. Oh, yep, got a gap right there. And if I get any leaks, I hope that I'll be able to just combat them with tape. So I'm all set up and ready to pour the resin so that I can do a river. I'm using Amazing Clear Cast. We actually sell this on the website now. It's going to be going along with the applique series that we're going to be doing. I'm going to be dyeing that with some Pearl X in purple. I don't have this on the website. If you guys want us to carry dyes, let us know if that's something you're interested in. But you can find this at jamirayvintage.com. We ship nationwide. I'm at my super official mixing station here, and I picked this up down at the dollar store. I'm going to get rid of it when I'm done. These are just plastic cups, and this is a 2-part resin. So to measure this, I'm just going to fill them all the way up to the top. Now, I'm not going to worry about bubbles right now. Stirring it up, you want to get it stirred up really well. This has an open time of 30 to 40 minutes, so I've got quite a bit of time I can work with it here. Alright, so got that all the way to the top, and I'm just going to make sure I do that with the other side. There's a side A and a side B. You can see they're different colors. When they dry, they're super clear. Alright, so I'm going to dump this into my super official pail here. This one as well. Okay. And then I'll do another measurement. I'm going to make sure that side A and side B both go back into the same cups. I'm going to mix it up. I'm not going to go too crazy. Make sure I'm touching the bottom with the dowel here. I've got about 64 ounces, give or take what's left in the bottles, mixed up of this clear cast. So I am putting a lot of dye in there. I'm going to mix this up and see what it comes out to. I'm hoping it's like a really deep, rich purple. I may have added too much. This is going to be really purple, and I don't know that the lights are going to work through it. It's going to be, it is no longer see-through, that's for sure. Honestly, looking at this, I don't know that I have enough. There's air bubbles and things in this quite a bit. That's okay though. I'm going to hit it with a heat gun, and that's going to take it right on out. So I'm going to need about as much as I mixed up again, but check that out. Look how cool that looks. Alright, so I've got half of the river poured. I'm going to go with a little less dye in the second pour. It was a little darker than I wanted it to be. That was more of an experiment. So I'm going to be adding this LED strip into it. It has like, it's got an RGBW spectrum, so it can do tons of different colors and be programmed. It's got a remote here and a control unit. I'll put the link in the description below on the video so that you can find it. They're pretty inexpensive. I think this one was $15. So total length on this is 15 feet, and it's supposed to last 50,000 hours is how long this is supposed to last. So I don't feel bad about putting it in here. Once it can't turn on, it'll be all right. I mean, I think he'll be done with the desk. The cool thing about this LED light strip is that it's open-ended. I can either cap this or I can plug it into another light strip if I need more length. So this is going to be way more strip than I need. If you end up with more than you need, they've got a point right here where you can cut it. It's completely sealed, so if you cut it right on the scissor mark, you'll be all right. So I'm going to have it come out on this end since I have more room. That end is about closed up, but I had more gap down here on this side. So I'm going to have this come out right over here. That way I can have the remote be over here and the control box hide neatly underneath the desk. Now what I'm going to do, it's got a sticky backing on it. So I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to start running this. I'm going to run it over here as wide as I can because I'm going to try to run 2 lengths of this down the river. Alright, so my closest cut point is right here. So it's going to be a little short right on this end. So I was debating whether I wanted this to run up out of the top, but I decided I wanted it to come out of the center of the resin so it was nice and clean. So what I did was I just took my jigsaw, made a notch right here, blew all the dust out, and then I'm just going to hot glue that in and fill this up with hot glue, and hopefully that'll hold that and keep the resin from leaking out while this cures up. Let that cool off, and then I'll do another one. Okay, so I've got my hot glue dam there. The LED strip is in all the way down and secured. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the other pour. So I've been stirring this up off camera. This is about 64 ounces of resin. I put 3 of these Pearl X in the Reflex Violet into this, about that much. So I'd say half a teaspoon per scoop. So 1.5, let's guess about 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of Pearl X is in here. And I'm going to go ahead and pour that on now that that hot glue has dried. Okay, so the resin, the second pour is in. I got a couple little high spots and low spots on my wood where it's not just perfectly even where the 2 sides matched up. But that's okay. I can do some hand planing on that and bring that down flush, and I'm not worried about scuffing the resin at all. A quick buff with some 1000 grit sandpaper and a clear coat over the top will make that shine again if I have to sand it. So I just wanted to test the LED strip and see what it's going to do. This is in its test mode where it just flashes, and check out how cool that is. Now that the pour's done and I'm done playing with the lights, I got to do a little extra work. I'm going to take the heat gun while it's still liquid form. It's not set up yet. I'm getting some bubbles that are starting to come up to the top. I'm going to use this heat gun to start popping them and kind of flow that river a little bit too. So you can see right here, I've got a couple little bubbles. I'm just going to take the heat gun. It's on high. And you just pop that bubble. I've been making a huge mess of the garage, per usual, it's normal. And the resin is pretty much cured. It's hard to the touch, but it's still got a little bit of heat in it from that chemical reaction. It's a 2-part resin. And what I'm doing right now, I had some high spots. The pour was low right here in the end, but here in the center, it's high. I had a twist in the board when I cut it apart. It had a lot of tension in it, so it twisted on me a little. I didn't really worry about getting that out when I was doing the thickness planing. I'm just gonna use my bench plane or hand plane here and bring that down. It's pretty quick. I mean, it is a little bit of work. I have an electric planer, but I feel like I have to sand more when I do that, and I wanna be pretty precise. Mostly I don't care if this is on, it's not going to be seen, but it'll keep it from sitting flush down on whatever I mount it on. So it's peeling off the resin pretty easy, but the hot glue is sticking to the wood, so I'm having to go a little bit by bit. My next video is going to be me sweeping the floor. So this is a bimetal blade that I've got on the jigsaw here, and it's designed for cutting through wood that has nails or possibly metal in it. I've got this kind of rough sanded with some 80 grit just to kind of smooth out some of the plane marks and things. This is soft wood, so it gouged it in a couple spots. Not a big deal. I'm now going to go back with the orbital sander and hit it with this 220 grit sandpaper. That's going to continue to smooth this out. I've lost the shine on my resin pour, and I got to get that back now. All is not lost. So you can see even just hitting it with water. I'm going to smooth this out even further with the 220. Then we're going to go in with 400, and then I will hand sand with 1000 grit wet dry sandpaper. And after that, this will be ready to clear coat, and it'll look good as new, just like I just freshly poured it. I'm doing this part by hand because I'm just going to go down the middle of the river here. So I'm finished with the 400 and I wiped the dust off. You can see the difference here. And I've got a couple little pockets that are collecting sawdust. I'll clear all that out with a toothbrush, and when I put the clear coat over the top, that'll fill that in and those won't be noticeable. And I love hand sanding. If anybody ever tells you that, they're lying to you. I love the results you can get with hand sanding. I don't necessarily love the process, but the end goal is what we're after. So what I've done is I've just taken a little water bottle. I've got my wet dry sandpaper here. I'm just going to start sanding with the water on there until I feel like it's as clear and clean looking and shiny as I want it to be. Then when you wipe that off with the water on, that's about the look you're going to get once you seal it. Jamie came out and looked at it and suggested that putting some trim might make it look a lot more finished. So I'm going to go ahead and put trim on because I thought that was a great idea. I wiped the wood down with a damp cloth to get all the dust off of it. I'm using Sweet Pickins top coat, and we'll see what kind of shine we get out of this. If I don't like it, I might have to go back with like a high gloss sealer if I want the color in the river to pop a little more, but we're not going to stain it. We're just going to go straight on with sealer. And I'm using my 3-inch Worcester foam brush to apply this. It applies it really, really smooth. If you don't want to get bubbles, just kind of lightly drag it across. This first coat, I'm just gonna kind of put on here. I might have to buff it when I'm done, but we'll see. It looks white when you put it on, but it dries crystal clear. I've got the first coat on. I'm gonna let that dry for about an hour. I'll come back, because it's raw wood, it's probably gonna soak it up pretty good, so I'll probably do 4 or 5 coats before I'm finished. I've got these 2 dressers from IKEA that were just the raw wood pine. I'm gonna go ahead and fill the holes in the drawers where the original knobs were supposed to go, because we're gonna do some cup pulls on them in the center of the drawer. And I'm going to be painting them in Fairy Chalk Mother gunmetal, just like we did his bed. If you watch that video, it'll be similar so that it'll match the bed. I'm just using DAP patch and paint, lightweight spackle. So I'm using these little IKEA dressers as the ends of my desk, and I've got them positioned just so this can fit under here, and it also hides a cutout where the drain from the bathroom is that comes into this room. It's weird. It's sheetrocked and covered, but it makes that wall not flush. So that is going to sit there right like that. All right, let's see if this chair goes in. Oh, it's perfect. It goes in perfect. That's looking like a pretty sweet setup. He can do homework, right? Do some homework, but he'll probably actually do some gaming. We're gonna put a TV up on this wall with some shelving. All right, moment of truth.
So I wasn't in this video at all. But I was involved, right? Like I did do some things.
Yeah, she basically was like, I need it here, I want it this wide, we're gonna do this, I need it to fit the chair underneath. She gave me a lot of good direction on how she wanted it built, and it turned out awesome. We came together on it and it looks good.
So basically I designed the whole thing. Except for the resin pour was your idea.
So let us know what you think about the live edge, the opposing faces on the resin river pour with the LED light strip in it. A lot of people were like, I like live edge, but not in this setting. It needs to be like in a cabin. So I feel like we kept it fairly modern, but still live edge.
Yeah, well, we're going for like a modern industrial vibe. Once we get the shelves and the TV up and the curtains, I think that it'll kind of all pull together. That's going to be the next video we show of the room. We went with cup pulls from Hobby Lobby, and then we also did add the strip across the front just to give it a finished look, but we didn't use any stain or anything on the top just because the wood is really beautiful, and we wanted the light to contrast with the gunmetal, which is what we used on the base of that. And you can pick up the gunmetal and the top coat as well as the resin at jamirayvintage.com.
So on this design, let's say you don't have access to a live edge. You could easily get your jigsaw, cut yourself a little pattern out, and then maybe take like a grinder like I did with the dough bowl and just soften that edge, or a sander, orbital sander will soften that edge and pull some of that material out, and then you could do your river pour in that. And it doesn't necessarily need to be this big. We have a huge wall we're trying to fill and fit this big chair in between. You could do cutting boards, small projects, end tables. There's a lot of things you could do. It's a really fun way to customize a room.
So now that this is done, are you Team Zeb or Team Jamie? I actually think that I'm not even Team Jamie anymore. I'm Team Zeb. I totally love the live edge. I think the LED lights definitely take it over the top, and it's something that his friends are going to think is cool, so we got cool parent points.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Hopefully.
so you Team Zeb or Team Jamie? Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Jami Ray Vintage for more.
DIY.